Glory land.
I've a home prepared where the saints are fed, a silver in the glory land. And I long to be by my Savior's side, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land. Low dawn, the happy angel band, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, there with the mighty host of sin, just over in the glory land. On my way to the virgin's birth, just over in the glory land. Sing God's praises and glory share, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land of joy, the happy angel band, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land, there with the mighty host of sin, just over in the glory land.
With the blood washed throne, I will
Shout and sing, just over in the glory land. Let hosannas to Christ the Lord and King, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land of joy, the happy angel band, just over in the glory land. Just over in the glory land,
the mighty host I'll sing, just over in the glory land. All right, amen. You can have a seat tonight, and we're going to go ahead and turn your Bibles to the book of Ruth, and the book of Ruth tonight, and Ruth chapter 1, and we're going to pick back up where we left off last week. And last week we looked at the problem trying to cover up our mistakes. You guys remember that? Hopefully you watched online or you were here. And we see that sometimes we tend to cover up our mistakes, and sometimes that can come back to haunt us. It can bite us in the rear. And that was when Naomi had tried to basically, she had tried to encourage her daughter-in-laws to return to Moab. Now, understand that Moab was not a place that you wanted to send anybody, okay? They were the heathens. They were the place where God was not found, etc., etc. So she was basically sending her young daughter-in-laws, after their husbands had passed, back to a place where they had come from, but they had grown with God. They had got saved. They had learned about God. And, but Naomi had left her area. She had left her town that was godly, she was where she was supposed to be. Her and her husband had left, and they had left into sin, and they went to another area that they weren't supposed to be in. So sometimes we find ourselves in a place and in situations where we shouldn't be because of decisions we made. Now Naomi is going back, but she didn't want the responsibility to have to explain why she has two daughter-in-laws that came from Moab. So understand that sometimes after we make mistakes, we have to explain to people why we are carrying the baggage we are carrying, or why we have the scars that we have, or et cetera, et cetera. So Naomi had got to this position. She did not want to have to tell others why she had daughter-in-laws, so she tried to encourage her daughter-in-laws to go back to Moab. All that to be said, understand that this had come back to her, but we see that Ruth was unwilling to go. Ruth said, no, I want the God I want to stay with you. I want to serve the God. I want to go to the church that you go to. I want to be part of this because, man, my life has been changed. I don't want to go back to that God-forsaken place. I don't want to go back to that land that was a godless society and there were all kinds of sins. She goes, no, I want to be part of this. So she wouldn't let it go. She wouldn't let it go. And so therefore, Naomi was really forced to bring her along. And and really, Naomi sounds as if God had totally forsaken her, but she was really exaggerating the situation. You know, how many times do we find ourselves exaggerating the situation because of our sin life? We don't want to be embarrassed. But God's like, I'm still with you. I haven't left you. Hey, yeah, you made some mistakes. Let's pick up. Let's move on. See, so many times we get so caught up with our embarrassment that we don't really want, we think that God is not ever going to be happy with us again, that God's never going to use us ever again. Listen, man, it's not just people that mess up in public or not just people that mess up in the view that other people can see, but listen, we all mess up. Understand? All of us mess up. And you know what? The ones that will serve God the most will be the ones that admit it. I say, okay, God, please forgive me. And then try to move on. Try to get back in the game. Try to get, God, that's the thing. We mess up and God is like, okay. I mean, what happened to the prodigal son? He came back. But he went through his own situation, right? He went through his own running away from God. And it wasn't just his father, it was God. It was his God. He left but the father stayed and waited. I can imagine that, he was upset for a while. I can imagine that, he was struggling for a while. The son and the father. The father had his own set of struggles. His son just left with his inheritance and blew out from the house and went out and partied it up. I mean, can you imagine the disappointment in the father's eyes? But he was still waiting for his son to come home. He had faith. Part of the problem that we see today is it's like the devil tells us that we're never going to get better. You hear me? We're never going to get better. Never. Never, never, never. That is such a dumb word. Because it doesn't fall in God's, in his theology. Never is not an accurate, synonym for what describes God. I mean, God says, no, you can come back. You can get back into my graces. You can ask for forgiveness. You can get back to where you need to be. We so many times just think never is our situation. But at the end of the time, at the end of the day, when we talk about it, never is not one of those things. God says, I don't care how long I have to wait. I want you to come back. Now, he does care, first of all, because he doesn't want to wait on you. He wants us to come back immediately. He doesn't want us to go in the first place. But once we're gone, and once we're out doing our own thing, God is waiting. Okay? It's not that God leaves us, it's because we've left him. So when we look at Ruth here, we see a couple things. We're going to pick up in chapter 1, verse 19. Let's have somebody read verse 19 through 22. Anybody want to do that for me tonight? Anybody bring your Bible? All right.
19 through 22?
Yes, Ruth, chapter 1, 19 through 22.
So they two went until they came to Bethlehem, and it came to pass when they were come to Bethlehem that all the city was moved about them, and they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara,
Right.
for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest.
So all of a sudden we see a situation where she had to answer for what she's done. Anybody ever have to answer for what you've done? We've all been there. We've all been like, yeah, I done messed up. And you got to answer for it. You know, unfortunately, I have seen the blue lights, you know, behind me, driving on the road before a few times. And I'm going, are you kidding me? And now I've really been doing good. Knock on wood. I don't believe in knocking on wood, but knock on wood. You know, Lord, I'm grateful that I haven't had those blue lights for a while. That they occasionally show up in my rearview mirror. I don't like that. And then I have to explain to my wife while our insurance is going up, you know, that kind of thing. And she's like, I mean, for real? You know, what was you really in a hurry for? Hey, listen, we all have to answer sometimes for the things that we do. You know what? That's part of being humble. And Ruth had to come to that place where she was like, you know, I'm going to have to woman up. I would say man up, but she'd have to woman up. She'd have to come to that place where, you know what, there's no getting out of this one. I have a Moabite daughter behind me, a daughter-in-law. You know, how did I get that? Well, we were someplace where we weren't supposed to be. And so Naomi really sounds as if God is really totally forsaken her, but she was really exaggerating that situation. And but understand that bitterness will cause a person to do that. I'm not going to ask for show of hands of people that's been bitter in life. I think we've all been bitter at one point or another about something. But you know, bitterness left unchecked can really wreck your life. Mm-hmm. It can wreck your mind, first of all. It can wreck your heart, then it can wreck your life. You know, I have met many bitter people in the ministry. I've met many bitter people just in life in general, but especially in the ministry. I have met a lot of bitter Christians.